Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation, Asa Kabir Jiyo, the 35th sabad in the sequence, and the recitation. Asa Karavat Bhala na Karavat Teri, lag gale sun binti meri. Karavat Bhala na Karavat Teri. So there are two similar sounding words, Karavat and Karavat. Karavat means a downward slope, a fall, the declivity of a mountain especially. It means something that can cause injury. It also means a saw, something that you saw with. The other karvat, which is karavata, the sound of a t at the end instead of a t, means to turn, to be on your side. Karvat lena. So Kabir Ji is addressing the self, if you will, by saying, Karavat Bhala na Karavat Teri. To be pierced by a saw does not compare to the pain of you turning your back to me. Because when you take a karavat, when you turn to the side, your back is towards whoever is next to you. And that's the analogy that Kabir Ji is using. He's saying when you turn your back towards me, that pain is greater than the pain I would feel if I were to be sawed. Lag gale sun binti meri. So that's the plea. Lag gale, take me in your embrace, relieve me of my pain. Please heed my plea. So this is the plea that Kabir Ji is making. What he's experiencing here is the symbolic dark night of the soul, which is a sense of abandonment. Because when someone turns their back to you, it is a message. It is a message, right, of abandonment. Unrequited love, if you will. This is when the self appears distant to us, and we all have these moments. And yet, Gurbani, it calls it birha. This is a feeling of birha, of separation. But Gurbani tells us this feeling is precisely the springboard to a deeper mystical union. In other words, this is like a springboard. You have to feel the pain intensely enough to want to jump into that abyss. The abyss that is unknown to us, the self, because it is like jumping into an abyss. You have no idea what you're going to land on, or where you're going to land, or if you're going to land. But Kabir Ji is making that plea. Karavat Bhala na Karavat Teri, lag gale sun binti meri. And then in the Rahao, the central message, he says, how vari, I would sacrifice myself. Vari, which means to sacrifice, actually means to become fluid. To become without knots. When you're fluid, you're smooth. Vich se jana in Punjabi. So, how vari, I would become fluid or make me fluid. What that means is I would let go of the knot of the ego. Mukh phir pyare, beloved, turn your face to me. That's the plea. Turn your face to me. Don't turn your side. And do not give me your back, which means don't abandon me. I don't want this separation. Karavat de moko. See, he's using karvat again. He says, turn around. Turn your face around. Kahe ko mare. Kahe ko mare, in common parlance, means, why are you killing me? Please don't kill me, because this separation is killing me. But mare actually means an obstacle, and the obstacle is the ego. So Kabir is actually praying for the ego obstacle to be removed. And the Rahau expresses the finite longing for the questing for the infinite. And the infinite reveals itself through its wisdom. So this is a sabad-a-milava, not a physical union that Kabirji is talking about. In Gurbani, wisdom that we want to hear is also denoted by a sword, Gyan Khadag, which implies that one has to cut through the illusion, the veil of the ego, with the sword of wisdom. So that's where this cutting through, chopping off, sacrificing, it's violent. And this quest that Kabir is on is called bhakti. Bhakti is the lover here, and the beloved is seen through its creation. So the act of devotion, therefore, is not to a particular thing. The act of devotion becomes the very meaning of life, which means that no matter what you're doing, where you are, it is with an act of devotion. And that demands nothing less than cutting through the illusion of the ego, of being self-centered. Kabir goes on to explain, he says, Jo tan cheer hai, ang na moro, pind pare to preet na toro. Jo tan cheer, tan means an extension, to stretch, offspring. So the tan is the body, which is the offspring of the mind, the self. Jo tan cheer, he says, should you choose to sever my body, angana moru, I will not retract my limbs. Pind pare to preetana toru, should my body fall, pind pare, or die, my love will remain unwavering. So the message is that the path of devotion requires unwavering commitment and transcending of the physical. Hum tum beech bhayo nahi koi. Hum tum beech bhayo nahi koi. Tumhe so kant nari hum soi. Between you and me, hum tum beech, there is no separation. Bhayo nahi koi. There is nobody between us. We are actually of the same essence. You are the great spouse. Tum sakant nari hum soi. We are your brides. So recognizing that there exists an intimacy between the self, ego self, and the self. They are of the same essence. Kahat Kabir, suno re loi, ab tumari partit na hui. Now the transformation has occurred. So Kabir says, he declares, suno re, listen. Listen, folks, re loi. Loi comes from loka. Loka means people of the world. He's saying, now, ab tumari partit na hui. I do not share your perception. I do not follow the same path that you're on. What he's saying is that my perception now is guided by the Gur. I no longer am I guided by my ego. So worldly perception is tinged with a sense of separateness. Now I see everything as being interconnected. So that's the ask. That is the motivation that we should all have, is to be joined in an intimate relationship with the Creator to become co-creators, to move humanity forward. So when you do Nam Abhyas, you basically have to remind yourself of who you really are. You're a reflection of that divine, and you are indeed destined to be here on this earth to carry out a purpose. You're not just here randomly, but that is how the world perceives existence. They can't make sense of it. But the Gurmukh does, and that is why it is a Gurmukh. So become a Gurmukh. Be guided by Gur wisdom and move humanity forward. Evolve. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.